Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Talking Skritt. I'm your host John, better known as Dale. We're on Yak Spin with a fantastic show for you. Living Stories Season 4 next Tuesday. Loads of Tuesday teasing. Is GW2 diverse? And much more. But first, let me introduce you to my fellow host. He streams over on Twitch where he answers the age-old question. With Mountgate and Living Story being announced, what the heck happened while I was gone? Say hello.
So many things. So many. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys don't seem to understand. Dale does an incredible job hosting this show. I come here and I'm like, I miss 5 things at least. So.
Oh shucks! Stop. Keep going, but stop. No, but thank you for filling in. And she writes for MMORPG.com and also her own site, MMORly.com. I have been gone for so long. I hope she can give me a good welcome back roar. Say hello to Robin.
I don't even remember where the roar thing started. How did
I
that
don't
start?
know either. I think it was when you had your Char plushie and you were doing this. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I was like roar. Yeah,
maybe if
okay.
someone knows, maybe that's not it. But
okay, yay.
a new range of Talking Skritt merchandise was announced in Deo's absence.
Oh no.
I guess we're gonna have a email from GW2's legal team.
Oh, yeah, that was a meme from last week that I started accidentally.
Accidentally.
Yeah, we're have to sell earplugs now.
Oh yes, the videos were playing. So. Arena, if you're listening for legal reasons, is a meme joke, not happening. We don't need lawyers. Or we'll just make it for charity. We won't make any profit. Or it just goes all to them. Anyway, let us jump right into it. So I know they talked about last week because we had a teaser for a teaser of the Living Story update that is coming out next Tuesday. And we finally got a teaser trailer for the update. And weirdly, interestingly enough, it is called Daybreak. And you can see the trailer right here. So it's, it has like a voiceover from Cormier talking about, I think it's the same stuff from the personal store. Or,
It is.
Yeah, personal story of the expansion. And, you hear like Balthazar commenting on stuff. Like I said, this is all like stuff from the actual expansion. But near the end, it actually, I guess halfway through, it kind of updates with new stuff. And we hear a voice talking about, I think, what was it? Joko is taking over his town and stuff like that. And, a lot of interesting stuff, and I know a lot of people have been speculating, where are we going? So I'm wondering, do you guys have any ideas on the possibility of where we're going for season 4?
I talked about it last week with Malfanis, and I think it's going to be somewhere around the southern part of the if you travel southwest from the Crystal Oasis, I think in that direction is where we're gonna go.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I think a dev said after the expansion stuff that they said Kralkatork went south or something like that. So if we are following Kralkatork, I guess we're gonna go.
Weird if we weren't.
Yeah, it flies off. Well, problem solved.
He's gone. Good day.
But yeah, so, and a lot of other people have been looking at stuff, like little things. Like right now, I think you could see a certain scene of Joko's minions kind of escorting or prisoners or who we don't know. It seems like the humans didn't want to be there, so I'm gonna guess prisoners, especially with the dialogue surrounding it. I know for one, Doror's tweet where he talks about Chronicles of Tyria, kind of gave him a hint, and Interestingly enough, it shows basically you see the cutscene and a place in Guild Wars 1 known as the Astralarium, and then it shows a map of, Guild Wars 1 spot, and also where it might, probably will be in Guild Wars 2 if it is that place.
What was the Astralarium in Guild Wars 1?
It was basically an outpost, but it also, I think, had a group like the Sky Order or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Sky Order.
I might be mixing that up with just like the Order of Whispers, and I'm just like, just put Sky in there. But I think it's Sky something or other. But the interesting thing is it's very close to Commodon, which was kind of the main hub for Nightfall or Alona kind of area. So, I mean, there's dialogue talking about like my city got attacked. Are they talking about the Astralarium area, or are they actually talking about maybe we're going to Commodon? Because it's not that far away if we're using. That's my biggest question is, if we're having new maps for Living Story, are they going to be big to have like the whole mount traversing thing, still an effect, or is it going to be more small, on the level of, I don't want to bash the Living Story Season 3 stuff because they were still pretty big maps, but I think on a mount you could probably get around them fairly quickly.
I think, well, like, the Living Story 3 maps were analogous to the hot maps. Like, they were very vertical and there was a lot going on. So I think we'll see the same kind of stuff as what they did with Path of Fire and the new maps too, and that they'll have things in there for the different mounts. I did see somebody theorizing that we were going to get a new mount with each Living Story chapter, and I was like, I don't think so.
That's very hopeful. I'll say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be cool, but like, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Usually the masteries that we get per Living Story are tied to one map or like a few maps.
Well, and the maps. Oh shit! Damn it! I swear. Sometimes.
Yeah. I wanted to read the Astralarium thing from the wiki. The Astralarium is home of many scholars and astronomers who study the stars and constellations. It is said that the learned people here come from all parts of Alona, and it is near Camadan. What? Yeah. So it's very interesting.
Order of the Sky. I was I think pretty much right.
Order of the Sky.
I knew it was
Order of the Sky is slightly better than Sky Order. Like,
okay, I gotta mix it up.
Yeah, I think it would be very interesting.
Yeah.
What were we talking about before Harley disappeared?
I like chat. Third expansion, we're going to the moon like an EverQuest.
Or they can announce Guild Wars 3 and they'll do like what they did in Final Fantasy 14 and have a meteor crash down and destroy everything and start new.
Let's not start looking at Guild Wars 3. I don't want to go after like another legendary. Like, I got my legendary. Please. Oh boy. Yeah, they're coming out with new content. Dead game. We're done. Dead game. Yeah, but it's definitely interesting because people notice those two pylons in the cutscene, and it definitely looks similar. It's definitely that like gyroscope thing at the very top, but it's a kind of a different pillar. But that could just be a transition from Guild Wars 1 to 2, or.
Wasn't there in Living Story 3, weren't there some places we went to that you had gone to in original Guild Wars and they had kind of updated it and made changes to it for like between the time, or like there were some crossover? Like the Fire Isles, I thought was one, and some of that? Or am I misremembering that?
Yeah, no, I think there are different changes over. It's been like 250 plus years, so it's like change happens. I think it'd be interesting for the Australian in particular because Cloud Joko is taking over pretty much all of the regions of Walona, all the major regions, and it'd be interesting to see if he kept the astral IM intact in that case, because
Oh.
it's technically just a group of like scholars, right? And they're just
Mhm.
researching the stars. They're no real threat unless like they're harboring sun spears or something like that.
Well, it depends on what kind of dictator he is. Some of them
Yeah.
just don't like learning in general. So
So
Yeah, and
yeah,
Joko very much seemed like that. If you go to like that was it the last zone where he's like teaching people, and you're like, he defeated Zaitan. You're like, I did that, and it's like, yeah, good one. Uh-huh.
yeah.
yeah,
I wonder. Well, if he does keep it intact, it might be because he has a certain purpose for them or something like
yeah.
that.
Like if he was making use of them, I could see that. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I ever
So,
talked about the theory I was going with about when we were going back to an ore area in season 3 was, you know, it's weird that like I think if you go into what is it, Ara, like there's
Mhm.
the whole like star thing and stars are getting brighter. I always thought like maybe the eternal alchemy is almost a representation like basically the mist is used to maybe even travel through space. Like basically the mist is like a big TARDIS. It does time and space. But they use the mist to travel to their other domains, like, and maybe because the dragons were waking up, that was maybe either feeding into those other domains, meaning those stars were lighting up, because I think that was the dialogue that they used where, oh, certain stars are becoming brighter after the certain dragons woke up. So, far enough planet away could look like a star. But, maybe that's, he understands that and is also looking to the, planetary stuff to maybe become that god that he wants to be.
That's an interesting thought too, because like that's one that's actually, not to get nerdy or anything, but that kind of theory about like planets can look like stars sometimes when you're far enough away is a thing that happens. A lot of times people, when they point out stars in the night sky, it's a planet they're looking at. So that's an interesting thought.
Yeah, so I don't know. We shall see. Joko wants to become a god, so maybe he wants to somehow try to get to those other planes.
Yeah.
And get the power from, since we know the gods have now fled.
You said to get the power, and I just immediately imagined Joko doing the He-Man thing, like holding up a sword and being like, "I have the power."
I know it was in the dungeon. I think it was the Jotun path. Alaska Winter's asking which the stars were getting brighter. I think it's one of the end dialogues, like through the cutscene. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the Jotun path, because I think they're even attached to, like, they were always kind of the stargazers, but before all the humans and stuff. But oh, you've only done Aura once. Yeah, I think I've done it a couple times here and there, but I always kind of just use the wiki, or if someone has a video, just so I can hear, because a lot of times I'll try to want to hear it too, in case the way they say it. I know I look at it too much, but
is that Mac?
Night Mac?
Mac, you gotta stop changing your name. My bot really hates you when you do that.
Yeah, it's actually, I don't even remember the last time I've done a raw at this point, but
But yeah. I've actually I don't know how many I've ran every dungeon at least once on a explorable path at least once or twice, but I actually don't know how many I've done.
I think there's still so I still haven't gotten the Dungeon Master achievement, because there's one path of Aral that I still need to do, and it was whatever the one we did that one night where it got to be like 1 a.m. and I was like, I just can't go anymore. I'm tired. I've never gone back and finished it because I can't remember what path that was even.
I mean, since they updated does it have a list like some of the achievements?
Oh, I haven't looked recently.
I was gonna say
I should do
because
that.
that might make it a little bit better. Because I think that's always
Yeah.
what I dreaded too, where there's like you're missing 5 of them. It's like, well, which 5? Or you know,
Yeah. You would know you were missing one of the paths, but would have no idea which path. But yeah, I think it does say now. I have to look.
Anyway, let's get back on track because look, I come back and we're already diverging so much. But yeah, it is also interesting. A lot of people are thinking we're going to be or either near the Astralarium or Commodon. But I think it was today Guild Wars 2 actually tweeted out like, 3 days left, and they gave us that little teaser image of basically it looks like broken ships, like almost like a broken harbor, like sunken stuff.
Sunken stuff.
Sunken stuff. Everything's busted, basically.
Is that
It's
like snow or ice or something?
I'm wondering if it's
Or is
like
it water?
fog or yeah. I'm not 100% sure. That's the ships almost kind of remind me of like the Istan ones that kind of had like. Didn't they have like the dragon head like heads on them? That seems more Canthan, but I thought no, they didn't. Maybe the Corsair ships. I don't know. I don't know where we're going.
Yeah,
Someplace.
it's someplace, probably in Alona. It makes the most sense.
Yeah. I was just thinking for some reason a revamped ore, an area near ore that between the, ore is the lead in between, but that's not going to be a thing. So don't know.
Yeah. This kind of ties in with where I think we're headed, because if you open up your map in Guild Wars 2 and you check the southwest from Crystal Oasis, there's a lot of water area as you go towards where it could be the Astralarium Camadon area. So it's very. I just want to know like if that's water or snow or something. I don't know what it is, or sand even. Because there's a lot of. I don't know. It's really foggy, and unless I see like a video, I don't really have a perception of what it is.
And I mean, sand's not too far fetched. I mean, the Crystal Desert was the Crystal Sea until everything just went poof.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't know if it turned the water into sand. It never really got that descriptive. It just said it turned the ocean into a desert.
Yeah, I think it's not like it literally turned the ocean into the desert, but like, changed the landscape so the water receded.
And yeah, I do think it is kind of confusing because I've seen a lot of people saying like, oh, is it snow? Just because usually when you go into an area in the sky, like it gives you that like blue fog, like kind of shade on your screen. You're usually in the Shiver Peak area or a snow area. So
yeah, so it just looks like a plain, like there's no trees or anything. It's just like ships and wrecks of ships. So I can't really tell what the land is.
But also, we do get that slight bluish tinge with some of the ore areas, so it could also be somewhat. I don't think we're going to go back to ore, but maybe that's also where maybe some Zaitan corruption might have been.
Well, that's what I was thinking. If it's an area like nearish there, you can see some of both things going on.
Because maybe if we're fighting or chasing Kralkatorrik, maybe some of that corruption, like Arlie's saying, maybe went to Commodon or something, but now Kralkatorrik's like, well, I want my corruption to, be there or whatever, so maybe it's making a beeline to change all that stuff.
So since we have the first season of Living Story coming out, are we still staying away from spoilers from the expansion story is what I'm trying to ask.
We can't when we actually get into story for Living World. So
I was gonna say it was kind of hard. I was trying to dance around it when I was talking about the trailer because I was like, the first part, it's like literally saying it. So I think they're putting it in a trailer now. I think it's fair game at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Because I'm like, Kralkatorrik Wow.
He's a
Probably-
giant bird. He's
He's a giant
quail.
koala. Oh my god.
Oh, giant koala.
Anyways.
Just call a dragon some other animal?
Oh my god. I'm gonna kill my webcam. I swear. I don't know why it's doing this.
I don't know.
Randomly.
either.
Didn't this happen before?
Yeah, it was a while ago, and then it got
Choco is a
better.
wizard.
And then it started again.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Oh, but Krakator could be flying around, being like, "I'm a god now." Yeah, like
Yeah, because they
don't
do. Britlock does make a mention of like we just gave an elder dragon the power of a god. So
yeah. He's like, "I'm gonna eat everything." Rawr.
Yeah.
yeah, chat's agreeing that it's
It'll
not
be
spoilers anymore, so we're good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, that's
so
kind of what I was wondering, because like it's really difficult at this point. So
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure the people that
mean-
wanted to play it got through it, unless unfortunately they were extremely busy. But I think
yeah,
they
that happens,
realize,
but
yeah.
it's
But
been 2
yeah.
months now, right?
somewhere around there, which I mean, kudos to them, because didn't they say like it was gonna take, like they wanted to keep the 2 to 3 month schedule, but they were really leaning more towards the 3 month schedule. So
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, that's the way I interpreted it. I think, oh my gosh. I'm gonna, like, seriously. I think I just need to get a new webcam. I don't know what the deal is.
yeah,
But yeah, that was the way I interpreted what they said. And I think they wanted to keep the schedule, but I think also, like I was saying, that if they didn't get it out at this point, there's no way they could do it in December, just with the schedule of everything else that they would have had to wait for January.
yeah.
I think we should just pull up the corgi.
I mean, like, come on.
We can if
No, I'm gonna try and change which one it's going into, and maybe that'll help.
okay. Well, while you do that, we talked about last week that apparently we were also going to get the raid wing and a fractal. Well, this time they did tease us with a raid wing image, and once again it looks like it's definitely a snowy place. There is actually snow, but it's like in ruins, and off to the left you can actually kind of see ghost spirits type thing. So
Yeah.
I mean, what in the world could this be? Like, where do you think this is? I mean, I'm gonna guess somewhere in the Shiver Peaks, since I think that's the only place that snows in all of
Yeah.
Tyria.
Oh, what's it called? Keep talking. I'll get back to you. Hold on.
Okay.
That place with snow. That's not in the Shiver Peaks.
The North Pole, where Santa is, just in time for Winter's Day.
Don't judge me.
Winter's Day is coming early.
Oh dear Lord. No.
Well, the
'cause-
Desert Highlands does have a lot of snow, but that's like right on the edge of the actual Shiver Peaks, like,
Yeah.
geographically, even though that's not the region, since it's in a zone.
Yeah.
We're gonna fight Santa. Maybe.
Well, Santa is evil, so you know.
Oh, is it gonna be like Futurama Santa?
Yeah.
Seasonal rage. Yeah, I think we joked about that, a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, maybe it's the Lair of the Snowman coming back.
Here's the question: have they said like anything about if you'll? So the old raids. Part of the point of doing them was to get the things to work towards your legendary armor. Are you still going to be able to get that stuff in the new raids?
It's a good question.
Yeah,
I think
I
so.
don't think they described anything, because people were like wondering, are we still getting LI, or is it a new, currency, or basically. And to answer chat's thing, is the raid wing based in POF? All we know is it requires POF.
Yeah.
But I
think it's going to be similar. Like in Hot, they did like adjacent stories, so the things were related to what happened in Hot, and I think they're going to keep doing that. I don't see why they would change that. It worked well for them.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
right now,
Okay.
if the side story is you guys releasing Joko and you freaking do it in the raid, I hate you all.
I found what I was looking for. So on the wiki, well, yeah, it's on the wiki, and there's a map of Old Tyria, and above where the desert highlands is, it has the Tomb of Primeval Kings. If you go up towards just a little bit to the left, there's Thunderhead Keep and there's Iron Mines of Mullidoon. So Thunderhead Keep is kind of the closest thing that I would say would be a decent raid. So maybe it'll be that.
That would be pretty cool, and yeah, I was thinking that too, just because it seems like it's a fort surrounded by snow, which that was very much the Thunderhead Keep mission.
Yeah.
Which I'm curious if it's ghosts. Like, are you basically fighting an onslaught of like White Mantle ghosts? Because basically in Guild Wars 1, the mission was you had White Mantle and Mersat, coming into the fort, and you just had to kind of repel them type thing. And yeah,
I hope
even
it's
Tavik was
dwarves.
saying,
I'm gonna fight dwarves.
no,
Kill the dwarves.
The
they're
Stone
all
Summit
good
dwarves?
now. Well, they all got changed, didn't they, or eliminated? I think that's how
they
it
all
worked.
turned to stone. Oh my god.
Not dwarf ghosts. That can't be a dwarf ghost. We can see them on the screen.
You
be a
can
lot
see
tinier.
ghosts. Remember
They'd be a
all the
lot
ghosts in
tinier.
Ascalon? You can see them.
But I'm just saying they'd be a lot tinier. They look like a full human size.
Maybe they got turned into giant stone dwarves and then they turned to ghosts.
The humans turned into stone dwarves and then turned into
No, the
ghosts.
stone dwarves got changed into like giant versions of them. Like they got bigger.
Oh,
and
okay,
then they
because mine would have
became
been
ghosts.
ridiculous.
Yes, yours would have been utterly ridiculous, Dale. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, we
What
won't
if-
have to wait long. It'll be Tuesday, but so yeah, I don't think we have much information on it. I know a lot of people have speculated that it might be like 3 bosses and one escort or
I
something,
would
or
think
one
it would be
event.
3 still.
3 encounters.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 encounters. But
I'll say bosses because people don't like encounters, and I think Arena knows this by now.
and if you're just somehow listening to this, that wasn't Arlie's disgust on the word encounter versus boss. That was her webcam going again.
I swear, like last week this didn't happen at all, right? Like there was no issue. And now, like I don't understand it.
All right, from now until the end of the show, place your bets on how many times Arlie will lose her camera.
I just
I don't think they made that number yet.
understand. Infinity. It's infinity. Literally, as soon as I turned
I was
it
gonna
on,
say,
that's how it-
but before we lose Arlie again, there is still one more area that they could tease, and that was the fractal. And it's such a short, like, it pretty much might as well been an image. Like, it's 5 seconds, but I mean, I still appreciate like just a little bit of it, but you basically just see the camera panning from the ground up on a stone structure, which it kind of looks like it has a face, but I don't know if that's just me reading way too much into it. It looks like if it is a sculpture, it's not a well done sculpture in the sense of like a a lot of time was taken into it. It seems more primitive. Is what I'm looking for. Like maybe we're gonna Grawl fractal.
No, Grawl fractal.
That
would be different.
I don't know.
Huh.
It's a Grawl.
A gruff. I don't get much off of this, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's difficult. It's not much.
But
yeah. There's not much to go on from it,
It's
but I mean,
from what I could tell in comparing it to POF areas, well, I can't even compare it to POF areas because it's fractal, but it feels like it feels like the area in POF where you're in the Crystal Oasis, the southern middle part, where there's like, it's not desert, but it's it's more like desert going into jungle area. I don't know what the word is to describe that, but
Yeah, I agree with Chad. It does seem like it's a trick of the camera, because I think when I did pause this when I was rendering it for the video, it like I looked at it, I'm like, it's just a pile of rocks. Because I mean, for people, we are designed to try to add faces to make faces out of things. So yeah, I think it definitely does seem like it's like a trick of the camera.
Get
Like
all
if you're able
psychological on us.
if you are able to pause it, I think when you look at it, you're like, nah, it is just like a pile of rocks. And then when I played it again, I'm like, no, it's a face. I'm like, think. But
Man.
unless it's some like weird mismatch of like coding, this definitely does seem like a night fractal. I know a lot of people were like happy about we're gonna get another nighttime fractal. So, and I think it is important to note, in case people don't know, while we did get 3 fractals last time, this, as far like that was just one story arc last time. This has no connection with that one as far as we know. I mean,
Oh, they're not continuing that.
yeah, this isn't the
storyline.
arc fractal,
Obviously.
unless, yeah, they didn't say anything about it, but they did say that the story was going to be, the arc story was just going to be during season 3. So I wonder if we're going to actually get another story arc of fractals.
Maybe.
But yeah, hopefully that'd be nice if we. Do you think that would be nice if we got like 3 fractals for like each season, or every, like,
I don't know if they want to tie themselves down to story arcs every
Yeah.
time for fractals.
I think- I don't know. I think as long as they do interesting things, it doesn't really matter like how many there are at the end of the day. Like, I don't know. I don't want them to be like, oh, well, we did an interesting story in 2, but we've got to stretch it out for 3. Or like if they had a longer thing and they
or
were
at
do
least
4,
okay.
but squish it into 3,
Well, would you like to see at least a fractal story arc each season to accompany the season thing? Not necessarily 3, maybe it's 2, maybe it's a really good one, story fractal.
Okay, yeah. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Oh, and chat's saying,
it
is
adds
there
so much more than just like a random thing,
Yeah. And chat's asking, is there anything significant about the red banners or brazier on the right? Yeah, I did see the brazier. I did not see the red banners actually, but
yeah, I haven't
It's like a
noticed
small
the
flag in
banner.
the top left. Do you see the red thing?
Yeah, I did see
okay,
3
yeah.
people at the bottom. It makes me think that this is probably going to be a cutscene similar to the Colossus, where maybe this
like
is
when
where
you
we
walk
enter.
up and it goes whoosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it made me think that maybe that was just like maybe where the player characters are standing, or maybe an enemy we're gonna run up on, like similar to the Colossus.
That'd be cool. I always love the Colossus one. That's still one of my favorite fractals.
And yeah, the banner and the brazier kind of what made me point to POF first, because you kind of get that feeling of that area in certain parts of POF. But yeah, I'll just wait and see.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Nice. Like I said, you're not gonna have to wait long.
Mhm.
But any final thoughts on the Living World Season 4, the raid wing, the basically anything we've talked about?
I can't wait.
We're going to have to till Tuesday.
No, now. Press the button, Arena.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just because I'm extremely exhausted from for the past 2 weeks, but I'm kind of hyped, but not overly hyped. Again, probably because I'm just really tired. But
Yeah.
The story is. I was just gonna say the story. I feel like is going to be kind of an interesting turn, and like what characters will be involved at the start. If we're gonna just focus on like the party that we've had for POF, and then everyone's shown up there, so it's like we're just gonna all be together and run around, or some people gonna split off and do things or things like that. Character development, I kind of want to see a little bit better this season.
Yeah.
Not that there wasn't any last season, but I felt like there was just there were parts of last season that I really wanted to see that I didn't get to see. Not as much even in POF, but hopefully I'll see that character development this season.
Mhm.
For oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say on the topic of character development and stuff, we've got to like pick back up with Bram and figure his shit out and all of that crap
No, we
too.
don't. No, we don't. Screw him.
I want him to get not being a whiny little bitch. I want to get him back to being a cool and interesting character. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, he was he was one of the best parts of Flame and Frost. You know, the dark days of Living World, where fixed signs for 3 months or. But I still remember. I mean, you can kind of hear it with if you do the fractal with the boss, like when they bust through the thing, and he's like, "Oh no." Like he was a much more sarcastic character, which I thought was more interesting.
And like him and Rox were such an interesting like team and like pairing, and both with their backstories, like losing everybody that was important to them and like finding kind of like home with each other. It was really well done. And now there's just like Rox is just like, all right, well, I'll go along with whatever he's doing, no matter how stupid it is. And I'm like, what the fuck? What are you guys doing? Like,
yeah, I mean, I liked him during the like you're talking about that dynamic with him and Rox. What was it? Basically, when Scarlet showed up and like basically trapped us in the what was it, what's the thing down below, the Queen's Pavilion thing?
Oh yeah.
That's story instincts, and they're running around counting as they're like, I got 1, I got 2. Like it made me think of like that dynamic between Legolas and Gimli and Lord of the Rings, where they're like, you know, having the competition.
Yep.
So,
well, and then there was that whole like part where, again, season 1, if you missed it, you missed it, unfortunately. But there is the part where Rox told Bram that Ritlock offered to her if she killed Scarlet, she could join his warband, and Bram kind of blew up at her because he was like, hey, what would that mean like for me, for us? Like you would be running off and doing shit with them instead of staying with this group that you've built here and you've been a part of, which was a really interesting thing to see. And I don't know. I feel like we need to fix his arc needs to have it can't stay where it is. It's bad right now. It's bad. I don't like him like this. I want to see him like work through everything and like be back to being an awesome character, you know?
Yeah. It's actually interesting what Chat's saying about you know, season 1 Rox and versus like season 2, and it's like for me it kind of like somewhat meshes all together, so I could but yeah, I definitely want to maybe go back through season 2 because that was all the dry top stuff, right? That's where they started to put the characters kind of on the back burner, not developing them. It feels like
Well, the other thing, like I was saying with Bram and Rox, like I was talking to some people on Twitter about it, and like especially with Rox, if you don't know her backstory, a lot with her does not make any sense. Like it just hits completely different because you don't know that she was working with her warband and there was a cave-in and they all were killed, and that's how she ended up being a Gladium, and she couldn't find her place. And then, you know, Bram lost his father, who was his only parent he was close to, and all of that. And then he got close to Air, and they got a little over like their issues, and then she died, and like that was kind of how Bram and Rox bonded and like where they forged their bonds. And I don't know. It makes a difference, and not knowing any of that and not experiencing any of that absolutely changes how you interpret their characters.
And I will have to agree with Wispy Gem. I was annoyed by Bram with his freaking bubble shield thing knocking everything out of my AoE, but I still liked him as a character. But yeah, that was annoying.
What was I? For Mac brought up something interesting. It's like he's an interesting character because he's no longer the heroic family fantasy template. Which I kind of agree with it, because you know we don't really see that a lot in most MMOs, with the exception of like WoW and even not even in WoW sometimes, right?
Yeah,
Like,
they usually stick with pretty strong tropes.
yeah, so it's nice to well, it's interesting to see like that type of character development into like this I'm doing things my way and screw you type of attitude.
Mhm.
But as annoying as it is, but we'll see how that goes.
Well, and I was gonna say, I still see that fitting in like kind of the Norn ideals of forging their own legend. Now, granted, his reasoning is he wants to honor his mother's legend, which
Yeah.
that's where it gets kind of wishy-washy and with that part. But honestly, for anyone that would like, because I think a lot of people see Guardian like as paladin, like of any other game. It's a holy warrior
essentially.
type thing. Yeah. So honestly, kind of, you know, that heroic fantasy template of like more than likely it's if they're heroic, they're probably jumping in the thick of things, and
My God.
But honestly, I think that could work best for a Norn character because they're usually the type that are like, I need to make my legend. I'm jumping in the middle of things. So hitting that kind of, you know, like kind of heroic, you know, fantasy template of like a holy warrior that's like jumping in the middle of the fray and using, you know, their stuff.
Well,
like I can
the
see
other
Bram
thing
doing
with
that.
Bram is he's always, holy crap, he's always been really kind of headstrong and like sure of himself, but at the same time he always would also listen to other people's point of views and like where they were coming from, and he might not agree with them, but he would at least listen. And I feel like the way they did him in season 3, like they just made him into, no, I don't care what the shit you have going on or what you say, it doesn't matter, it's just this thing, and that's the only thing that mattered. And that's where like it became problematic for me. Like, I don't know. I also don't know how they would have done him like actually listening to us telling him, you know, we can't kill the dragons right now, there's a problem that's going to make it worse, we need to figure this out. How he would have been able to, you know, be like, no, whatever, I need to go do this. So I don't know. I'm just frustrated.
Are you frustrated about that or your camera?
Good timing. My God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it definitely seems like. He's going through his rebellious phase. I definitely think we were talking about that before, like way earlier on. It's like it seems like they're kind of putting him almost in like that teen rebellious phase of, you know. I mean, granted, both his parents just, you know, are dead. So.
Speaking of story, Raid. There is going to be some sort of story in Raid. Will it be tied to Guild Wars 1 lore? I have no idea. But
see,
it's gonna.
This is the thing. I don't mind if it's tied to Guild Wars. I know people were angry about the Saul thing, but I think that was solely a Guild Wars 1 thing. I'm still a little irritated by the Lazarus thing because that's not a side story. If anything, that's a that's like a, you know, it's like, oh yeah, you love that side story of Star Wars where Anakin becomes Darth Vader. No, that's main story. It's a prequel of the main, you know.
It set everything up.
Yeah, it's like, so I mean, if it's, you know, like I said, if it's more like the Saul stuff where Saul really, you know, it's not like they were like the White Manta were like, we want Saul as our leader, and then that's how it like it's basically just, you know, homage to Guild Wars 1 stuff, and that, you know, so I was fine with that more so than, you know, the return of Lazarus and stuff like that. But
I get attached to a lot of the characters, just because like when I find them interesting, I like them, whether they're good characters or, you know, bad characters. It's just, if they're interesting, I'm like, okay, I want more of that. You know, I was attached to Kanat from the beginning when he first showed up at the stupid island, whatever the hell it's called. It was being an asshole. Yeah. And then when he was...
Oh, you Southland, sorry.
Southland,
I was thinking Traherne, sorry.
But then like the whole time he was a prisoner and just not doing anything, like me and Deo, we used to talk about it. I was like, are we gonna do something with him? It'd be really cool. Like, you know. So I don't know. It depends. It
Yeah.
just depends on the character. I remember when Scarlet was a thing, a lot of people didn't like her at first either because they just felt like she came out of nowhere and like didn't understand what the deal with it was. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still kind of waiting for that payoff because she's like, you know, she still has that like blueprint of like, one day you'll see you needed me. It's like, has that been
Right?
explained? Because it's not really been
Nope.
thrown. If it's been explained, it's been very diluted. Like, oh, now like if it's like the point was now you guys see that you know me because I awoken Mordemoth, all these things that happened to the world because you defeated him. Now you better understand
Well,
it. Like if that's the case,
like,
it was
it's been-
very. Ugh.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of been hinted at that if he hadn't been woken up early and if he had woken up when he was supposed to wake up and had kind of been at full power, everything would have been way worse. And like that's kind of been hinted at, but I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
I've
think
heard
that's
some people
really-
make mention of that, but I've never really seen it like as concrete. Which, I mean, good or bad? Because I mean, I don't think everything should be just thrown in people's faces. Like you know,
Mhm.
but eventually maybe tell people, yeah, that was it.
Yeah. Or I mean, she could have just been insane because I mean, Scarlet was kind of insane. So
I mean, she just had voices talking to her. If that's insane, then
Yeah.
color. I mean, anyway.
She was just misunderstood a little.
yeah.
Just like Abaddon, right, Deo?
Whoa! Don't you dare!
Good thing
They're right.
Abaddon's dead.
Wow, I come back to this. Well, any wrapping up ideas of Living World season 4? Or what are you guys most looking forward to? The story, the raid wing, or the fractal? Out of the
The
three there.
story.
Raid Wing, because I want to see stealth mechanics so I could actually bring Thief.
Mm. I would say story and close second fractal, just because I'd like to see what I want to see if that thing's a face or just a pile of rocks. But
yeah, we
story.
definitely should get a night and get us together and run the fractal. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
Could stream it.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a plan. But you know,
Minis.
if you're minis, oh boy. At least I didn't see one person say gem store. I mean, Fashion War is pretty close.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're running these raids or fractals, you're gonna need a group, and you might need a diverse group. But can you do that in Guild Wars 2?
Oh my.
Oh?
There was an
I was
article.
just like, what?
There was an article from MMORPG.com where they talked about like basically what does class diversity mean, and they were kind of comparing like other games to what Guild Wars 2, because I think they started talking about like how Guild Wars 2, you know, at the very beginning was like touting, you know, oh, you can bring any class, any, you know, combination whatsoever, and this was still, you know, early on when we just had the dungeons and that, you know, that was the group content end game stuff. Now that we have, you know, fractals and, you know, higher fractals that require more coordination than, you know, the 5-man dungeons. Now that we have raids, it's like has diversity gone out the window? Is I think the question that they're bringing up, which,
Huh.
what are your?
I mean, all of the classes or professions have like they're different. Like I don't know, like bringing a ranger is not the same as bringing a thief or like any of the other. Like they have overlap in what they can do, but it all works very differently.
Yeah, are you talking about class diversity in a group perspective or just like purely?
It seemed like it was much of a group perspective, because one of the things they talk about was related more to the raids, like they were once a believer that this game itself was diverse and the community was self-inflicting elitist behavior. Self-inflicting elitist behavior on themselves.
Yeah,
But,
that was definitely true.
Yeah, but after they taught a raid group from scratch, so like no experience in it,
Hmm.
they said that they found it apparent that the slightest change in comp, like missing the druid healer or missing a PS warrior or a poor chronomancer, is for anyone inexperienced a death sentence.
Yeah, I mean, but that doesn't really hurt class diversity. It just means that there's not enough overlap. If you need a specific spec or profession to do content, that means that there's too much diversity, really, because there's nobody else who can fill that spot. You know what I'm trying to say here? Like,
I think they might be defining diversity differently. Like they want multiple people to be able to fill that role sufficiently.
Oh,
Which-
okay.
Which like I think they say in the article, like there are a lot of professions that can do healing, but the druid healer is like bar none, mainly because, and I think they go on to talk about the buff uptime makes up too much of the damage for kind of raiding and stuff like that. So if a group's not having optimal buff, using optimal builds for the buffs and stuff like that, the raid becomes, as they said, unclearable, which
okay. I feel like there's a difference between optimizing and diversity. Optimizing is bringing like best in slot, like Alaska said. There's always going to be a best in slot. So if you want alacrity, you probably want to bring you want to bring Chronomancer right now. If you want healing, you want to and might stacking, you want to bring a druid right now because that's the best in slot. If you're talking about diversity for a raid group, you can literally bring anything you want as long as you know how to play your profession properly.
Yeah.
Like Teapot did like a 10-man necro raid and cleared stuff, and he had like.
I mean, I know that's always people's go-to, but can we really say the top like? And
Well,
I'm sure
the thing
Teapot will
is,
love this,
like-
but the top like 1, maybe 5% of like the player base. That's how we should balance the game. Because I'm gonna say no real quick.
But like if you bring the optimal things, even if they're not played well, it still makes it a little easier because there's a little bit of a lower bar there just because it's optimal. But like if you want to bring non-optimal stuff, you have to like do it well. That's just
Yeah,
no way around that.
It's like a 2 spec bar here. So if you're going to be optimal, you can play it at any range. If you're not inexperienced to experienced, as you bring down the optimal bar to diversity, you have to increase the inexperienced bar to more experienced. So if you're going to play like non-optimally at all, you have to be really experienced. That's how I see it anyway.
Yeah, this did get posted on Reddit. I am glad that one member of QT actually chimed in. The Reddit user 2 girls 1 up. Oof. And they did say, I think a lot of people do not understand what our builds are made for, and they put in parentheses, which is speed clearing. I must admit, we are also not doing a very good job at communicating this. I myself, and this is the 2 girls 1 up, I myself play a lot of off-meta builds in pug runs or sometimes even guild runs because they are fun. So, I definitely do think that's another issue is, it while they do it for speed clearing, the biggest optimization, people take it as gospel across the board, which I'm not blaming QT. I mean, maybe like, I like how they're saying, we don't communicate this enough. So, they're taking they are personally taking a little bit of like, we should do better as well. But, a lot of it lies, I think, on the player base where they're just like, well, I want to see the big numbers. I want to be,
Yeah.
So,
Mac, what I mean is by playing like less playing. If you're gonna play suboptimally on optimal class, I mean like you don't do your rotations perfectly, but like you at least put wells down on people, right? If you're putting wells all over the place, then yeah, you're not playing it well at all. That's what I mean by like that
Like
comparison.
performing the mechanics of the profession well. Like there are different ranges of what people can do. There was also something like people kept wanting in the last expansion. People wanted engineers a lot for the Condi because they were really strong on it. But that was also a really hard one to play, and because of that, like bringing a NG who couldn't play it well was not worth like giving up something else. Like if you had somebody who had an NG and they were really bad at playing that spec because it was a really hard spec, it was better pretty much to have them play something else that they could play well, even if it wasn't like a meta build or whatever. Like there's balances on it, and like people just need to figure out what their strengths are and what they can do individually well, and perform on it. I mean, rates are crazy, but they are not tuned nearly tight enough that you have to have like the meta builds on everything to be able to clear. Like that's not the way they're done. And it might like take some creativity to do things a little bit differently to do that, but I don't think that's either a problem either.
Player skill in given class can be important. Yeah, that's true as well.
Mm-hmm.
I can play pretty much every class. I haven't played engineer and raid yet, but
yeah. Well, it's like when we were raiding, I right from the beginning I was doing a Tempest Condi, and like that would at that point people were like, oh, it's pointless, but I was doing good DPS with it, and like I had it worked out. So like I don't know. There's trade-offs.
humble brag. Well, I do. I just
yeah, no, like when you mentioned the in hot, basically the engineer build of like swapping all the kits, like I remember because I think your husband would. He might not have been on the character at the time, but he came into one of our raids the one time and he was talking about that, and he started talking about the rotation like halfway through. I'm like, I don't even know what you're saying anymore. Like in my mind, it looked like one of those like, I don't even know if they still exist, but like those like floor mats that like shows you how to dance. Like it shows the footsteps, like, you know.
Oh.
Everybody's looking at me like they don't know what they're talking about. But it like seems like so elaborate. Like it's like go here, then if that, then here, then this, then this, then it's
yeah. Well, the NG spec was like literally playing the piano. It's just ridiculous, crazy.
Yeah, I know a guy named Crescents. He mains engineer, and he played it. When he swapped all his gear to like Vipers, he like our DPS went up insanely. He was that good at engineer. So
yeah. Anyways.
Right. Well, we just want to throw that out there, you know. I think it's an interesting discussion of, you know, diversity and, you know, character makeup, and because, you know, while I say I'm not a, you know, big fan of the raids, I still am not a fan of like the whole, you know, distinct roles that I feel like have gone back to you know, other MMOs, which, you know what, we're not going to get into that because that would be a can of worms that you know, but I do agree with what a lot of people are saying where it's, you know, I think that they're being a bit hard on the thing, and I'm glad that QT has actually come out and, you know, a member of QT at least came out and said, you know, that what their actual design is for, you know.
Yeah.
they've actually started, I think recently, like the last 2 or 3 posts that they've made have said at the top, you know, these are just like optimal builds, but you can, you know, don't be a jerk type of deal.
Don't be an ass.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, I know they've been getting better about that, but even in that case, I would say, you know, an optimal build for speed clearing, because you don't know what their goal is. Maybe, a player's goal is maybe just to clear it, not necessarily speed. So you don't need as high of a DPS build. Maybe you want a little bit more survivability
Yeah.
But yeah, that's such a nitpick. I'm like I said, I'm glad they said.
It's like the same thing when we had just dungeons and everybody was focusing on the meta of like how you do the speed clears with dungeons, and people were like, well, why would you want to take that place and like, take more time than it takes? And like, not everybody can play that style because the speed clearings were very glass cannons and you had to do things in a certain way, and not everybody can play that way, and that's not a problem. That's just, a reality of life. Not everybody can do like those things. You have to be able to adapt.
But yeah, so let us now do a quick update. We've been talking about this for multiple weeks, and while it's still not like, it's still like kind of diverging away from the Guild Wars 2 news of it, I think it's still important to at least give an update for people that are maybe just solely watch just this podcast, since it does affect gaming in general, and that we've talked about in the past. But like we said, it's gonna be just a quick little update, get quick opinions and anything like that. If we want to talk about more during after show or on YouTube, in the comments, more than happy to. But basically we talked about loot boxes and gambling, and I think it was last week the Belgium government was decided that they were going to look into it and decide if it was gambling or whatnot. Well, they actually came back real quick with basically kind of their premise, I guess, if you're a researcher, like their hypothesis, like basically what they're going to be looking for with its intent of the investigation into gambling and loot boxes. So there's no, there's no final answer yet, because I know a lot of it was reported as they founded gambling. No, that this was a mistranslation, and it's clear they're just basically this is their premise of they want to look for. Let me see if I can get the exact wording. Let me bring it up real quick. Because it sounded great if that was the end result, but they did get a clarification that was literally only like what they were going to go look for. But so yeah, the mixture of money and addiction is a game of chance. So that's kind of what they're going to be looking at when they investigate. But I mean, a week, I think it was less than a week from between those updates, that they're already kind of putting in, ready to go investigate, I think is awesome. Like, sometimes government can drag their feet, so it's awesome to hear that they're taking this seriously and looking further into it.
My concern about it is with governments getting involved in all of this, like on the one hand, yeah, but on the other hand, that they rarely are actually concerned about the consumer. In the past, when we've seen governments post for regulation in games, it's not based on actual concern. It's based on whatever their personal bias is, not backed up by like any kind of like fact or research that's been done. It's backed up by their personal biases and what they think it should be, which is a problem. And I don't know. I feel like this could be opening the door to a whole slew of problems. Not that
I don't know if I said it on a show or during after shows or something. Yeah, I don't know if I said it on a show or after show. I was like, the ESRB was established to keep, and PEGI itself were established to keep government out of regulating it. When they said, well, if the government changes their, definition on it, then we will. I'm like, you are opening a horrible door right now. Like,
yeah.
So
I actually watched the Jimquisition, I think it was called.
Oh yeah, Jim Sterling.
I actually started watching him a bit more because I wanted to keep up with all of this, and apparently UK and Australia are looking into it now. I think the UK said that they don't consider them gambling
Yeah.
because of the definition that an organization that manages all that stuff has, and
Mhm.
doesn't match up with what's in game. But they still identify that there's an issue with children gambling money and things like that. So they're going to look
Yeah.
into it in that respect. But yeah, the Jimquisition's kind of just relishing the fact that he was right. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's an interesting issue, and I agree with Dale that ESRB should probably stepped in a lot earlier to say something or to do say something about it, because you don't want the government to manage your games, guys. Won't
Yeah.
end well. Look,
Kind of like what
Yeah.
Chat's saying about like I've always heard about the German censorship, at least from like in high school playing like Call of Duty, like with the whole World War II and Nazi stuff. I'd always known that was a big
Mhm.
issue. So I don't know how much further it goes on beyond that, but I've always heard stories about what is it, WoW in China, that the undead are have flesh
There's a
all
lot.
yeah.
any
they-
game in China
Yeah.
that has undead, yeah.
Yeah. Like you can't even mention undead. Like it's there's a
Yeah.
lot of things.
I think Australia has a slightly different rating system. I'm not
Really?
Yeah,
sure.
because I know they always had an issue with Saints Row. I think the Saints Row the
Mhm.
third, when it was going over there, it was getting a higher rating, I think, in Australia. But yeah, that's like we're all saying, it's a scary thing to throw the ball into the government's court.
You can't have undead in China because undead are unclean and not okay, and the government says no.
Yeah,
Literally.
it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But related to the loot box gambling thing, and this is what I'm surprised about, and also once again worried about, is Hawaii is looking at regulating loot boxes as well. Representative Chris Lee leading the charge in Hawaii. He did say it was due in large part to Star Wars Battlefront 2. They did say, we have also been in discussions with our counterparts in a number of other states who are also considering how to address this issue. So, it's like, once again, kind of like what we're saying, government regulating it, and it makes me kind of it's like, it's nice that our government is responding quickly, but it might not end well.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of hilarious that this is the one thing that they're quick about?
Yeah.
Like, out of all the problems. Anyway,
Yeah.
I really wish EA would have just listened to the feedback they got the very first time from the beta, because it was obviously an issue then, and they should have addressed it. They should have addressed the concern a lot better than what they did, and just and now it's just a huge mess, not only for them but for other games down the road, or that had slight RNG in giving away things.
Chad does bring up a good point, like, gambling and government, regulating gambling and government usually means government wants a cut. Yes.
Yep.
But that also brings it under gambling restrictions of they have to be 18 plus. At least in the US. I mean, I think that's pretty standard everywhere else, but I'm not 100% sure. Which that either turns all the teen games into mature or adult. I doubt adult only, but mature.
Not even necessarily. I mean, look at some mobile games that are like, like Summer's War, I think. I don't know if that has RNG loot boxes, but if it did, that might get affected too.
Oh,
I know a lot of people.
Chat's going into dark areas of politics. Okay. Any final thoughts before we dive into a horrible, horrible tailspin?
May the 4th be with us. I don't know.
But well, if you're worried about loot boxes and gambling and not getting a sure thing, this week in the Gem Store, their Black Friday weekend sale, I don't think had any. Oh wait, no, Heroes Die Pack. Mostly mostly definitive things you could buy. Hey, it's a pretty good ratio for all things considered. But a lot of this has already passed if when you're watching this live or if you're watching this on YouTube. But from the 21st to the 27th to the whole, run of this, you can get Bram's armor, Magitech armor, and Phoenix armor for 640 gems, which is 20% off. Like I said, you've already missed the 22nd to 23rd. You could have got a free heroic booster the 23rd. Unfortunately, you can't get the Phoenix glider anymore or the 5 free transmutation charges. But if you are watching this on YouTube, November 25th, you can get 1 free Black Lion mini claim ticket. And also, you can still get the offer for the storage expander for 640 gems, which is 20% off. So, and I know one person is probably happy about the free mini claim ticket. But also on the 25th to the 26th, 20% off the Crystalline Dragon Wings Backpack Glider combo, and that comes out to 560 gems. So, with the stuff that's left, do you recommend people pick any of it up, or
all the free things?
Yeah. Definitely get the free things. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I missed the booster, but then I saw this tweet yesterday, so I'm like, oh, okay, free transportation charges, cool.
Yeah, I was stuck in the middle of nowhere.
Why is it not 6? Please, someone tell me. I have 6 pieces of armor. Why?
Because 5's an even number.
And it messes with you.
No, it's not. 5 isn't.
It's perfectly in the middle between 0 and 10. It's even in the middle. It feels even. It's a fake even.
My brain just died when you said 5 was an even number. Anyway, but yeah, Phoenix Glider, if you had the chance, was a pretty good one.
I mean, yeah, all the sales are good. If you've been waiting for something and it's on sale, then yeah, why not?
Yeah.
If you like it.
Yeah, I haven't gotten Bram's armor or the Magitech. I would probably lean towards the Magitech because you could do. I've seen a lot of people do a lot of cool things with that. I think it's the one that's displayed in the tweet right now, or the image that they tweeted out.
I actually need that. I forgot about that. I actually need a Magitech armor.
Oh, well, there you go.
Because I have a character that I want to dress up as Tracer, and I need 2 pieces of the Magitech armor to do that. So.
Well, that's a perfect opportunity to get it then. I personally like the Crystalline Dragon Wings Backpack Glider, but that's probably because I turned my Revenant into a half a dragon looking thing. So, but they are beautiful looking. I think they're the same skin model as if you do like the story in Hot when you're taking back or delivering the egg or whatever. So, if you want to see what they kind of look like a little bit in game, you can go do that if you have the story part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would recommend it. They look definitely nice. But yeah, it was kind of weirdly kind of a small gem store week. But
yeah.
Let us finally take a look at Community Corner. So, once again, last week we talked about Unity Gaming Organization's 5v5 tournament. You've already missed the NA one, but you can still do the EU one December 3rd. And even if you're sitting there going, well, I'm NA, I missed it, I can't play that. Well, we talked about last time, there are 2 new rulings. One of them is you can play in both regions with the understanding that, you're going to have to deal with the ping. So, if you want to take a chance at it, you could still, as an NA player, be in the EU tournament.
Sorry, in chat.
Also, class stacking is legal from the perspective of you can only use the elite or a core spec. So you could have multiple warriors, but one of the warriors would be a core warrior, one would be a berserker warrior, one would be a spellbreaker warrior, and so on and so forth. But Did you guys talk about how you liked those changes last time? I mean,
The balance patch stuff,
well, no,
or
the Unity Gaming Organization's two new role. Like, would you like to
oh
see something like
yeah.
that for like maybe actual automated tournaments or like a?
Um, I don't.
You're asking us to remember a week ago, Deo. Like,
Sorry.
No. It's just that I like the clock stacking rule. It brings a little bit of diversity to the compositions that you can use.
mhm.
The playing in both regions thing is an interesting one because it is a group decision that you have to make. Unfortunately, you can't do that for automated tournaments because if they did, then we wouldn't need EU or NA regions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool thing. Yeah.
Well, if you want to check it out and see how well it goes, definitely EU December 3rd. You can watch it then. But also in Community Corner we have the Guild Mag Annual 2017, which I know we've talked about for a couple weeks now. It's definitely for a good cause. This time they are doing the charity they are funding is the World Wildlife Fund. Which, if you don't know, takes care of animals and habitats for the animals across around the world. So definitely an awesome thing to help out if you can, and you get an awesome magazine from it, like of hopefully you're one of your if not your favorite game, Guild Wars 2, from content creators and fans of them, people like MMO Inks, Dragon Season, Korra, and also Age.
I'll be doing a review of Path of Fire. Why do I get the close up? I'm gonna be doing a review for Path of Fire. I have to actually get the first draft in before tomorrow, so that I'm almost done. Should be a cool read for you guys. Hopefully, I'll be tough but fair. And I wanted to show you guys like last year's magazine, but I forgot to find it last time, so I'll do that.
It's been a hectic week.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, if you are able to, it's a very high quality one. I still remember, people showing them off, and high quality magazine, definitely worth
It's
it.
always really neat.
But also, if you're in the charitable mood, there's also the Guild Wars 2 Winter's Day zine from Chimes, basically a Winter's Day themed Guild Wars 2 fanzine, hosted within the community of Guild Wars 2 by the organizers in POW. It features both illustrations and short stories that circle around the annual holiday with work from 71 contributors. It's 100 pages. It's basically the same size as the Guild Wars 1 art book at around 7 by 10. They say they want it's kind of meant for general audiences to spread the cheer globally, and it definitely looks nice. You can get a couple different like bundles. I think they have like a couple like merch things to accompany with it, but they did say all the net proceeds of the magazine will be going towards Doctors Without Borders, and they'll be selling physical copies by themselves and bundled with postcards and prints, like I said, starting November 1st. But I do believe that ends December 1st is the pre-orders. So, definitely go out there and make sure to pick up your copy if you can. But any thoughts on the Winter's Day zine?
It's cool.
Pretty.
I wish I was artistic.
mine.
Nice. All right.
Things.
Well, that is it for this week. So, Age, where can they find you?
You could find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at Age Night Road. I probably not gonna put out a video this week. It's just too much things going on. Next week I might be able to. We'll see what happens. I did plan to stream League, but there's a patch on Tuesday, and League was supposed to be on Tuesday. So I'll be getting the patch. I don't think I'll raid this week. Maybe next week. I might do the fractal with talking Skritt. So we'll stay tuned for that. So yeah,
Awesome.
that's pretty much it.
Cool. And Robin, where can they find you?
I'm on Twitch and Twitter at Arlie82, although I haven't streamed in a while, so I don't know about that. But I also write for MMORPG.com and GameSpace.com, and occasionally on my blog at MMORarlie.com. Yay.
And you can find me at simply_Dale on Twitch and Twitter. I actually streamed this week. It was Dauntless. It was really fun. I played it with Age. We had a lot of fun. Yeah. Definitely want to play more of that, but I know Tuesday I'm definitely going to try to use my brainwave device to at least go through the story, and then I guess we're going to try to do a fractal night with the new fractal. So I follow us on Talking Skritt's Twitter at Talking Skritt. That way we'll probably tweet it out if we're doing it through and streaming it. So, but yeah, definitely is fun. If you're popping at the very end, do stick around. We do an after show. If you do want to watch it in full, we do highlight it on Twitch, but we do also throw it up on YouTube on Sundays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. That way you can watch it any way you prefer. Oh, everybody's disappearing. Well, one person's disappearing. And Age just marked that was the sixth one. So since we're just ending, if you had 6, congratulations to those people. But yes, I would like to thank this week for the host from Sundora, Inky Sticks, Moonkiller NV, That Chevron, and Shadows of the Dragon podcast, which is SOTD_podcast. And as always, we will see you in the game. Good night, everybody.